She used to feel in control of your attention, your emotions, your time. She knew what to say, when to say it, and how to keep you close, even when she was distant. But now you're pulling back. Not with anger, not with games, with clarity. And the more you pull back, the more she starts to unravel. Because what she once fed off, your energy, your validation, your pursuit, is gone. You stopped responding instantly. You stopped trying to fix what she kept breaking. You stopped giving her the emotional leverage she never truly earned. And in that shift, something powerful happens. She starts to feel what you've been carrying this whole time. This isn't about being cold, it's about being untouchable. Psychological distance isn't about playing hard to get. It's about learning to walk in your own direction without needing her to follow. If you're ready to take your power back and let your absence speak louder than your words ever could, hit that like button. Subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications, and comment below. Distance reveals everything. Now let's begin. Number 1, she controlled the frame until you stepped out of it. For a long time, she was the center, your focus, your drive, your distraction. She didn't have to ask for attention. It was given, freely, consistently, almost automatically. And because it was constant, it was expected. She knew your patterns. She knew you'd reply. She knew you'd care, no matter how distant or inconsistent she became. But then something shifted. You didn't get colder. You got clearer. You stopped reacting. You stopped chasing. You stopped playing the emotional caretaker in a relationship that never gave you the same energy back. And in that silence, she lost something she never thought she would: the frame. Because when you stop orbiting her mood swings and start moving with your own intent, the whole dynamic changes. You no longer revolve around her energy. She's no longer the gravitational force in your life. You are. And for the first time, she feels it. She starts double-checking your tone, wondering why your replies are short, why your energy feels unavailable. And the worst part for her? You're not doing it to provoke her. You're doing it because you finally realized you don't need her to feel whole. You stepped out of the frame. And now she's staring at a space she used to control, only to realize you're no longer in it. Number 2, emotional starvation. Begins the moment you stop feeding her ego. She didn't just want your love. She wanted your reaction, every compliment, every effort, every response. It reinforced her value, not just to you, but to herself. You became a mirror she used to reflect her worth, and every time you chased, defended, or over-explained, it told her one thing: she still had you. But when you pull back, not with bitterness, but with stillness, something shifts. You're no longer feeding the dynamic. You're no longer pouring into a cup that never fills yours. And without that steady stream of attention, admiration, and emotional reassurance, she starts to starve. It's subtle at first. A delayed text from you that she wasn't expecting. A day goes by and you don't check in. You see her post, and for once, you don't react. That's when the ego starts to panic, because the man who once gave her emotional comfort has become emotionally distant, not cold, just unavailable, not out of malice, but because you've stopped making her validation your responsibility. And suddenly, she starts overcompensating, posting more, acting indifferent, testing waters to get a rise out of you, but nothing lands, because she's no longer your priority. You are. You didn't withdraw to punish her. You pulled back to protect your energy. And that withdrawal, it's not just silence, it's a famine for someone who was used to being fed every day. Number 3, distance turns the hunter into the hunted. In the beginning, she was the prize. She held your attention like currency. Every move she made, every delay in her reply, every breadcrumb of affection, you followed. Not out of weakness, but out of genuine care. You gave freely, but in her mind, it made you predictable, accessible, safe to take for granted. But now your distance has disrupted that illusion. You no longer text first. You don't ask where things stand. You don't overanalyze every shift in her tone, you simply pulled back. And without your pursuit, without the emotional chase she relied on to feel significant, something flips. Now she's checking her phone. Now she's replaying your last conversation. Now she's wondering if you've found someone else, or worse, if you've stopped caring entirely. Psychological distance isn't just silence, it's a reversal of roles. Because she was used to being the one pursued, now she's the one wondering, waiting, watching. And what haunts her most isn't your absence, it's the mystery behind it. You didn't announce your detachment. You didn't explain your change. You simply walked into your purpose and stopped giving her the front row seat. Now she's the one trying to read you, and for the first time she realizes the man she once controlled can't be reached from where she left him. Number 4. She was addicted to the version of you that needed her. She didn't fall for your strength, she fell for your availability, the constant presence, the quick replies, the emotional openness. She grew comfortable with the version of you that needed her. That's what made her feel secure. That's what gave her leverage. And whether she realized it or not, she fed off that. Not your desperation, your devotion. Because as long as you needed her, she didn't have to earn you. But now that you've pulled back, everything's shifted. You're still calm, still composed, still respectful. But the need, it's gone. You're not seeking her anymore. You're seeking yourself, and she feels the difference. She reaches out and gets short, focused replies. She tries to bait you emotionally and gets no reaction. She posts for attention and watches you ignore it completely. That's when she realizes the man she was addicted to is gone, replaced by someone who doesn't revolve around her anymore, replaced by a man who values peace over attention, purpose over validation, freedom over familiarity. She was never ready for the version of you that stopped needing her approval to feel whole. And now that you've become him, she's left addicted to a presence that's never coming back. Number 5. Your absence highlights her emotional immaturity. As long as you were there, steady, patient, always willing to talk, she never had to look at herself. She could act cold, inconsistent, passive-aggressive, and you would still try. You'd try to fix things, try to meet her where she was, try to carry the emotional weight for both of you. But when you pulled back, the mirror cracked wide open. Now she's sitting in the silence with no distraction, no emotional lifeline, and no man willing to absorb her chaos. And it starts to show. Her impatience, her impulsiveness, her inability to self-soothe. Because when emotional maturity isn't there, silence feels like abandonment. You weren't cruel, you didn't lash out, you simply stepped back. You chose peace. You chose to stop participating in a dynamic where your effort was taken for granted. And that withdrawal? It forced her to face the one thing she's been avoiding, herself. Without you softening the edges, she now sees the sharpness of her own behavior. The patterns, the push-pull, the way she expected love to chase her while she kept running. And now, that gap between who she is and who you became, it's uncomfortable. Because real maturity isn't how loud she can talk, it's how well she can sit in silence without self-destructing. And your absence didn't hurt her because it was punishment. It hurt her because it exposed her. No more emotional cushions, just a woman realizing she was never ready for the man you were becoming. Number 6. The more you evolve, the less she recognizes you. She knew how to handle the old you, the version that over-explained. That kept the conversation going. That showed up, even when she didn't. She knew what to expect. She knew how to pull you in. She knew your emotional habits like clockwork. But now that you've pulled back, not to punish but to elevate, she's looking at a man she doesn't recognize. You don't argue. You don't explain yourself. You don't need her to validate your growth. You're sharper, focused, emotionally grounded, and the more distance you create, the clearer the contrast becomes. You're not the version she walked away from. You're the version she never expected you to become, and that change, That evolution in silence throws her off more than any message or confrontation ever could, because it means you've detached not just physically, but psychologically. You've rewritten your story without asking for her permission to turn the page. Now, she scrolls through your progress wondering who you've become. She replays your last words, looking for a clue. She stares at the version of you she once had access to, realizing that man has outgrown her completely. The more you evolve in silence, the more she breaks under the weight of her own choices. Because you didn't leave to make her miss you, you became someone she can't reach anymore. Number 7, her power ends where your detachment begins. She had power because you were emotionally invested. Not weak, invested. You cared deeply, which made you predictable. She knew how to get to you, what to say, when to pull away just enough to reel you back in. Her power didn't come from dominance, it came from access. But detachment cuts the cord. It's not about being heartless. It's about realizing that your peace matters more than her presence. You didn't stop caring, you just stopped showing up where you weren't respected. And that internal shift? It's where her influence dies. Because when a man detaches, she feels it everywhere. In the delay of your response, in the lack of emotional urgency, in the way your energy no longer bends to hers. Now she's left throwing sparks into a storm, trying to ignite a fire that doesn't catch. And every time she fails to shake you, her control slips a little more, until finally, she's the one feeling uncertain, feeling anxious, feeling like she's losing something she can't touch anymore. You didn't shout, you didn't fight. You just stepped back far enough to see the game clearly and refused to keep playing, because her power was never real. It only worked when you were still reaching. And now that you've let go, she has nothing to hold over you. Number 8, she can't replace what she doesn't understand. After you pulled back, she might have thought she could move on quickly. Line up attention, find someone new, someone to match the image she had of you, the man who gave, chased, and stayed available. But here's the truth she's starting to run into. She can't replace what she never really understood. Because the man you were wasn't just present, you were rare. You were steady in a world full of inconsistency. You were loyal in a time of disposable connections. You were emotionally grounded, even when she wasn't. And now that you're gone, she's starting to realize it wasn't just what you gave, it was how you gave it. She thought she could find that again, but now she's surrounded by noise, attention with no depth, affection with no integrity. And suddenly, your silence speaks volumes. It reminds her of what she walked away from before she ever truly recognized it, because people don't miss what they lost. They miss what they couldn't replace. And no matter how many distractions she lines up, none of them echo the energy of a man who was fully present until he decided to pull all of it back. You became a standard, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it, and now she's chasing something that only exists in memory. Number 9, pulling back exposes the depth she always denied. She told herself it wasn't that deep, that the connection was temporary, that you were just nice, just there, just another man who cared too much. She minimized what you meant to her because admitting the truth meant admitting vulnerability. And she couldn't afford that, not while she was still trying to feel in control. So instead, she stayed surface level, detached, safe. But the moment you pulled back, fully without a word, that surface cracked. Now she feels it in every quiet moment. In the spaces where your presence used to live, in the things you used to say, the way you made her feel secure, grounded, wanted. And suddenly, she's faced with a truth she ran from the entire time. You were the realest thing she had. She starts looking at old photos, rereading old messages, replaying old conversations, this time without the emotional armor. Because pulling back doesn't just remove your energy. It forces her to face the depth she avoided. She can't laugh it off anymore, can't pretend it was casual, can't fake indifference in a space where silence now screams. You didn't disappear to teach her a lesson. You withdrew to protect your value. And in doing so, you unearthed the truth she spent the entire relationship trying to bury. You weren't just another man. You were the one she never truly opened up to until it was too late. Number 10. Psychological distance creates the closure. She never wanted. She thought she'd have the final word, thought she'd leave, keep the door cracked, and you'd always be there, waiting for clarity, hoping for resolution. She expected to control how the chapter ended. She just never expected you to be the one who closed the book. Because when you created distance, not just physical but psychological, you didn't just walk away. You took something with you, certainty. You didn't need her to explain herself. You didn't need her to validate your pain. You didn't beg for understanding. You simply stepped back and never returned. And that silence, that space you created, it did something no conversation ever could. It closed the loop without her permission. Now she's sitting in the ending she didn't get to shape. There was no dramatic goodbye, no drawn-out argument, just a man who stopped showing up because he finally started showing up for himself. Psychological distance isn't cold, it's clean. It doesn't just remove her from your life, it removes her from the emotional authority she thought she had. And that's the closure she never saw coming, because it came without noise, without warning, without the chance to control the narrative. She didn't lose you in a fight, she lost you in the quiet. And now, the version of you she took for granted is a memory she doesn't get access to anymore. She thought pulling away meant she held the power. She thought you'd chase. She thought distance would make you break down. But instead, it broke her. Because you didn't beg, you didn't explain, you didn't try to fix what you didn't break. You simply withdrew, with calm, quiet, psychological control. No anger, no games, just peaceful detachment. And now, she's the one feeling everything she once made you feel. While you move forward with clarity, strength, and self-respect, if you're done giving away your power and ready to let distance do the talking, hit that like button. Subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications, and comment below. Distance reveals everything. She didn't lose you because you stopped caring. She lost you because you finally started caring about yourself more.